观众大家好，今天是我们每周的体验游戏时间。那本周的话，选择一款很有年纪，算有年纪游戏的最新作的《世纪帝国4》。那前阵子出了，那今天我们就来体验一下。那首先我们就来玩个战役任务好了，完成。我们今天就来了解一下《世纪帝国4》，就它这个标题，我们就来达成这一项成就，一个里程成就。那我们就先来完成5项战争艺术挑战，还有诺曼人战役任务。好，探索策略。好，先前往战役好了。哈斯廷斯战役，106年诺曼底的威廉出兵向敌对的盎格鲁撒克逊人夺取英格兰王国，国王只能有一个，征服。好，看起来历史像页面影片，哎呦，好像不错。我们先来试试看这个主线好了，战役不是主线，战役任务。感谢按赞，谢谢。好，那我们来开始了。简单适合即时战略游戏新玩家，敌人会对你发起。我们先简单好了，下几场我们再来难一点，先熟悉一下《世纪帝国4》的操作跟界面。
Some events leave a deep mark on history, but none on the land. This is the site of the Battle of Hastings. After almost 1,000 years, no traces of the bloody conflict can be seen. But here, the fate of England turned. It's where a king was killed, and his victor claimed the throne.
玩游戏学历史，我感觉是一个不错的体验。
October 14th, 1066. We know what happened here on this day, thanks to this. The Bayeux Tapestry. A carefully preserved, illustrated record of events. It shows the main players. Harold, the newly crowned Anglo-Saxon King of England, and his challenger, William, Duke of Normandy. William claimed the previous king had promised him the crown. So, he assembled an army and prepared to sail to England to fight King Harold for the throne. But a storm thwarted his plans. Meanwhile, Harold discovered that a Viking invasion had landed in the north. Another threat to his crown. So he raced to fight them. In France, William waited for the right conditions to sail across the Channel to England. The weather cleared. He seized his chance.
这是《世纪帝国4》，我们比较常听到的是《世纪帝国2》，这是他的新作，前几周到几个月前新上市的。这款游戏，它这次出了战役任务，看起来可以边玩游戏边学历史，好像挺不错的。
And up for grabs, England itself.
噔噔。进行游戏。1066年，森拉
On
克山。
October 14th, 1066, William of Normandy stood ready for battle at the base of a hill. The high ground belonged to King Harold of England and his Anglo-Saxon army. Here, on this hilltop, the fate of England would be decided.
调一下设定，把调低一点。啊，要重新启动了。好吧，算了，就先这样好了。Go go go！ 攻击山顶上的敌人。啊，我做这一小团兵而已哦。好。来，先做一骑兵。他在地冲了。
William's Norman army made the first charge, launching a direct assault on the shield wall.
领袖使用技能。
Though William's army fought fiercely against the shield wall,
激励式
it would not
队
yield.
友。
As one man fell, another took his place. Overlapping shields in tight formation made for a near impenetrable barrier. Realizing his army could not break the shield wall, William called for a retreat. He aimed to lure the Anglo-Saxons into a false sense of victory, causing them to break formation.
撤退
William's feigned retreat was working. The Anglo-Saxon army broke their shield wall formation, leaving gaps for William to make a move. With Harold's men no longer in shield wall formation, William could pick them off as they charged.
这款游戏的战役就尽量不要跳过，感觉他们做的剧情跟动画都蛮认真的。对啊，所以这一款可以，感觉目前看起来还不错，感觉可以玩游戏学历史。
The Anglo-Saxons had deployed rows of spearmen to push back the invaders, but William had an answer. His sharp-eyed archers.
红兵，快往后！哦，有点刺激，有点刺激。加攻击力。 我一小团绕背。
Anglo-Saxon archers joined the fray, and the Normans' deadly cavalry ready to charge. But first, William's forces had to eliminate the enemy spearmen,
长枪兵
whose sturdy polearms could easily bring down a horse.
这款游戏可以边玩游戏边学历史，还可以学英文啊。假如是中文语系的话，还可以学英文啊。不同语系就选择不同语系的字幕，然后再学它的配音，听它的介绍的原文之类的配音。长枪兵，我的长枪兵在哪里？哇！哦，杀死敌方长枪兵可以让我派出骑兵。
With the threat of spearmen cleared from the field, William's cavalry was free to charge at the Anglo-Saxon archers.
骑兵绕背，骑兵绕背。骑兵绕背。弓箭放冷箭，啊！将军冲啊！
The Anglo-Saxon army was in disarray. Their shield wall had been neutralized, and their numbers were dwindling. Now the only thing standing between William and victory
枪兵、
was
骑兵
King
又
Harold
被
himself.
长枪兵戳死。喂，放冷箭时
The
间，
last of Harold's men encircled their king,
弓箭手放冷
prepared
箭
to，lay down their lives to save his.
弓箭手放冷箭。擒贼先擒王，有没有？快，射出去，先直接搞定别人的指挥官。Nice！ 哇哇哇！后面有一坨兵还没空。
The Anglo-Saxon King Harold had fallen. In the confusion, some loyal soldiers fought to the death, while others scattered in panic.
领导了，只要被击退了，军团就容易瓦解。好，感谢订阅，谢谢订阅。
Leaderless and defeated, the last of the Anglo-Saxon army fled for their lives. The Normans celebrated victory over the English king, but William's quest to rule England was just beginning.
Just beginning。完了。哦，已解锁锁定的内容。好，我们来看一下哦。完成必要任务即可解锁。征服。好，先下一局，等下再看看是不是可以解锁全部，然后我们看看，来认识一下它《世纪帝国4》战役模式的第一大关。
The Anglo-Saxon King Harold was killed here, on England's south coast. His army defeated by William of Normandy. Anglo-Saxon rule was over forever.
England.
At Westminster Abbey on Christmas Day 1066,
Christmas.
William was crowned the first Norman King of England. Now he had to secure power across the country. He began by stamping his mark on the landscape, building cathedrals and castles at strategic locations. Nothing like them had been seen in England before.
帅啊！
They reminded the Anglo-Saxon population exactly
这城堡
who
好
was
帅
in
啊！
charge.
大家有没有看了有点想要去旅游的感觉？
Anglo-Saxon revolts broke out across the country. King William acted quickly to crush these rebellions. But there was one region where dissent was spiraling out of control. The north of England. In 1069, a group of lords from Northumbria formed an alliance with Viking invaders. Together they approached Norman-held York, a large city with an important cathedral, still protected by ancient Roman walls. But the walls couldn't save York. The city and the castle fell to the rebels. William's new kingdom was under threat. He had to get the city back under Norman control. William had no choice but to order his men north. But as the Norman forces set off on their long march towards York, how much resistance from the rebels would they encounter?
Taste Games 诺曼人统治。1069年，刚刚的战役结束后，3年后的新战场。通往约克之路。
William the Conqueror marched north, with his army of Normans determined to take back the rebel-held city of York. But in his path stood rebel towns that harbored William's northern enemies.
看一下字可不可以大一点。图形，这个应该是游戏，还有图形。 高画图、动画图可以结合细节，连上线，协助工具是用者界面啊，字幕大小也有看到了，更大啊，先这样试试看。
He would take the towns back
好多了。
by force.
占领米格索普。好，骑兵队1号，长枪兵，长枪兵2号，弓箭手3号。这个斥候，啊，斥候先去打探敌情一下。4、5。 主将跟着进去，骑兵队。看到敌人了。 被人射到了路人，武器小路，我们 别再战争干扰到你的生活了。OK， 左侧有弓箭手，右侧有步兵。弓箭手躲树林好了。步兵来这里，骑兵从左翼进攻，好，是否再去打探一下敌情？谁的肉被发现了？被发现了！加德。冲锋！散开！骑兵可以回血，骑兵冲啊！占领
The
成功。
Normans captured the town of Middlethorpe, establishing their presence in the north. With reinforcements to his armies soon arriving, William would need more resources to supply them.
需要更多的资源，发展经济。建造额外4座农田。
Spero. What? Angulo.
Vostres lances.
Me?
Q 1。
Maçon.
Escolto.
Momenesi, archer.
Q 1
Edifico. Che?
Q 1
Masono.
怎么射呢？
Movo. Caburo.
Ubi vado.
Edifico. Si. Che? Ah, finito.
要伐木，怎么伐木场就不用跑那么远。有伐木场，在下面好了。
Caburo. What?
我
Vado.
1、2、3、4、5，然后再带2个。
Si.
哦，谢谢按赞，谢谢。
Che. Alla materia. Escolto. Laburo.
这个
Baked. Me?
不能盖啊，木头不够。
Materia.
24只。
Lanciers. In avant, Lanciers.
Spero. Che? Si.
QQ 是盖房。
Ubi vado?
Ubi vado?
Masono.
Che. Movo. Maçon. Arate, archers.
Acces vos, compagnon. Baked. Barats. Secco.
The Norman army was now well supplied by a town, but it would take a sustained effort to keep the army at full strength.
我们的援军抵达了。谢谢按赞。
Another rebel town, Fulford, stood in defiance to William's rule.
占领富尔福德。
Soyez prest. Avant, compagnon.
哦，我们要多了一群步兵。
Lankiers parate. Obeyo. Parade, préparate, Arquet. Amboula.
Amboula.
Ensala. Vado. Escol. Parade, si.
L'heure.
Lanquier, si. Movens, Vassals. Movens, Vassals. Ensala. Mandes. Escolto. Cavallo. Exploro. Mandes. Vado. Bene. Para. Escolto. Ensala. Si.
Apertisset.
Vos stress, Parade. In avant, Arquier. Vos stress.
L'heure.
In avant, Lanquiers. Mauvais, Sergentes.
Accessertes.
Préparate, Arquier. In avant. Mandes. Si. Parade. Vado. Exploro. Bene. Cavallo. Kerte. Si. Ensala. Vado.
啊！我的骑兵啊！
Escolto.
我的斥候就这样被秒了。
Escolto. Lanquiers, parate. Mandes.
没事，我们现在知道那边有工兵了，骑兵队冲啊！
Soyez prest.
Lanquiers, si.
然后枪兵跟上，弓箭手殿后。
Lanquiers, si. Ite. Parate. Vade, Arquier. Obedio.
弓箭手支援。
Vade, Arquier. Lanquiersito. Parate, Arquier. In avant.
Chevalier. Apertisset.
Vos stress, Lanquiers. Vado. Parate, Entendo.
À la chair.
骑兵冲啊！
Vos stress, Lanquiers. Mauvais, Servientes. Momentesi, in avant.
Tres pour votre...
Lanquiers, vado. Kerte.
Sommes en... Je suis votre serveuse. Retrayez vos à moi.
Parate, Lanquiers. Explorsi. Kerte. Vado. Very good. Escolto. Vado. Cavallo. Si. Ensala. Si. Lanquiers. In avant, Lanquiers. Ite, Servientes.
啊，步兵打头阵，工兵殿后，枪兵中卫，
Parlo.
我们都打
Soyez
这个
ordre
模
de
式。
commande. Avant. Avant, compagnon. Retrayez vos à moi. Oh, soit...
Lanquiers. Préparate, Ambola. Arquer. In avant.
Access apertisset votre courage, compagnon. Quand je commande...
行不行不行！
Attendez, avertissez.
Flanquière, c'est... Préparate, audience. Flanquière,
L'heure est...
骑兵绕背，骑兵绕背 ，Go Go Go！
flanquière. Nintendo.
Soyez prêts. En avant.
Arquère, in avant.
L'heure est...
Dovete ici, arquère Nintendo.
À l'arsenal, chevalier. Asseyez vos armes. Nous allons.
城墙冲！
Chevalier. Reste pour un. Reste tous. Access Metzbos. Nous allons.
Flanquière, parate. Momente ici, arquère, arquère. In avant. Préparate, arquère.
耶，占领成功！
With the Fulford rebels eliminated, William was one step closer to York. Knowing he would face strong resistance in the city, William prepared to bolster his cavalry.
建造食物，收集。
Mandemans. Vado caver. Si.
建造地标，地标是这个吧？升级吗？对了，升级，听起来是升级。黑暗时代地标。
Parate. Escolto.
南带黄金，在这里吗？哦，寻找骑手。
Spero.
哦，要这样子按吗？发展到封建。猎王修道院加速回血。进在哪呢？在这里好了。
Edifico. Mandes. Cavallo.
这个了。
Bene.
Attendez les commandements. In continu.
Parlo.
Paraz,
Si, vado. Escolto. Ascolto.
spero,
Okest. Me?
mandement,
Quitamus. Laburo.
我们来加速吧。
Wood. Ici.
被攻击，被攻击！
L'avancement des Parate. Escolto.
The Norman army came under attack from a new enemy, the Danes.
丹麦人的突袭。
William's army held back the Danes' attack, but they threatened to return unless William paid them in gold.
家里还
Bene, bene.
Access point.
Preparate, audience. Explo. Vado.
L'heure.
Defendo. Parate, arquers. Fade, arquers.
Attendez. Avertissez votre courage.
使用进攻面板，进攻面板。大概在这里。 向丹麦进贡，但是不够。或摧毁他的余地，然后选
William paid
择
off the Danes and was
给
rid
了
of their
钱，
attacks.
不要打我。
William's ultimate goal was within his grasp. All that remained was to enter York and destroy its keep.
Attendez les commandements.
Escolte bene.
建造军营。盖在哪呢？盖在前
Io
面。
ma sono la cosa.
L'heure est grande.
回血回血，看下来回血。
En boula.
很不了。
Soyez prest. Avant, compagnons.
Parats. Archer, in avant. Bene, bene. Obedio. Momentesi, Archer. In avant, Archer. In effect.
L'heure est si comme vos voldrez.
Tuts audite. Ecce li mandement.
Si sommes. Si, cavo. Si, quedement perfecté. En boulot.
哟，
Tuts audite. Vado labourard.
Comprendo.
Caval parat. Commandes. Cursor obéissance. Cavallo ici. Qued mandes. Oye, oye.
哦耶，
Coup
哦
de grande
耶，
course. Cavallo ici. Si volet. Caval parat. Comprendo. Cursor obéissant. Caval parat. Respect. Qued mandes. Oye, oye. Coup de grande course.
Access vos, compagnons.
Ecce li mandement. Escolte bene.
Prompt. Lanquier parat. Escolte bene. Cos'è sera massonata?
Scara formata. Obeio. Cavalarios parat. Parat. Attendez les mandes.
Lanques paratas.
Mi plec.
Parate, archer.
Soyez prest, compagnons. Avant.
Si, parat.
L'heure est je suis votre serveuse.
Ecce mandement. Veillons l'inimi! Nos menacen!
啊，我的哨兵被干掉了。
Tots audite.
Actondets les sicombos voldres. Voyez prest, compagnon. Assayez vos armes.
全部挤成一坨。
Preparate, archer. Intendo.
Paces vos, compagnon.
啊，骑兵布阵完成，
Tots audite.
可以发展工程武器吗？我不行。
Ecce mandement. Movamos, vale tous.
对，可以射箭场。
Posez sur ramasse.
Actondets les concertes.
Moment ambula.
Access incontinent. Soyez prest, compagnon. L'heure est certes.
Moment ici. Audience.
Acton pertisens fortat.
Obedio.
Je suis votre serveur. Quand je commande, avant.
Si, comprendo.
Access vos. Nos allons.
Preparate, archer, sire. Vale, archer.
Chevalier, Westwater.
Preparate, vade, archer. Caval para ambulo. Moment ici, Obedio.
Un assaut, chevalier.
Audience.
Somme
The Norman army poured into York and began sacking the town as they bore down on the keep.
Preparate, archer. In avant. Ambula. Moment ici, archer.
Cavalarios parat! Suto! Parat! Cavalarios! Quitamos! Ensaya! Donetz muevo! On a way, meglio a qui!
Vade, archer. Intendo.
Tous prêts! À l'assaut, chevalier!
集火，集火，快！集火，不管。耶，快！这包夹了。
The keep fell to the Norman army, and York was secured. The Northern Rebellion was over, and William the Conqueror was uncontested as King of England.
英格兰听力。哦，全解了。好，先退出战役，我们来看看。 解锁的内容。哦，约克。哎呀，好多个百年战争、骑士精神、诺曼人。从1066年，百年战争是1351年。哇，英法两地的纷争真的是维持了特别久啊！来，我们先来看一下它的影片吧。
At Guédelon in France, to understand how castles were constructed, they're building one from scratch, using just the tools and materials of the medieval age. It's a 25-year project, the world's biggest archaeological experiment. The most important defensive feature of any castle was the wall surrounding it.
Castle walls had to be incredibly thick in order to resist attack and absorb the impact of projectiles fired from trebuchets.
The curtain wall was over 20 feet deep, interspersed with towers. In earlier Norman castles, they were square. But while on crusade, European knights saw that eastern towers were round. They realized that eliminating corners not only made them stronger, but also provided a better view of the surrounding landscape. Completing the walls will take some 30,000 tons of sandstone.
Transport costs in the Middle Ages were incredibly expensive. So having a good supply of local stone close to the castle was vital.
To extract it from the quarry, first a row of holes is hand-drilled.
Once all the holes are ready, I'm ready to put in the iron wedges, and I'm ready to split it open by hitting very hard on each wedge with a big sledgehammer.
The stone is split into usable blocks, then transported using horsepower and human effort. This treadwheel crane can lift up to half a ton.
The walls are built like sandwiches. On the outside you have facing walls built from better quality stones, and the inside, the rubble cores, they're built with softer stones and other offcuts from the quarry. And they're built up in layers with a very thick, coarse mortar.
This ingenious method makes the walls better able to withstand hits from a trebuchet. Sandstone is too hard to be carved into intricate windows, vaults, and steps. Instead, softer, more expensive limestone is used. These sophisticated building techniques make castles the ultimate feats of medieval engineering. It's a testament to their construction that so many still stand today.
帅帅帅！来，我们看下一部《星星与星人》。哦，这是历史。好，我们看一下下一个影片。
Some events leave a deep mark on history, but none on the land. This is the site of the Battle of Hastings. After almost 1,000 years, no traces of the bloody conflict can be seen. But here, the fate of England turned. It's where a king was killed, and his victor claimed the throne.
这一段就一开始的。好，那我们跳过。按住也是跳过。这部看过了，是下一部约克。好，这个也看，这也是前面那一段。OK， 好。 后这个是历史。哦，所以它一个任务有它的起始影片跟附带的一些历史简介。有人说简介吗？也算蛮多内容的。然后再有一个介绍，实际的介绍影
One weapon more
片。
than any other dominated warfare in the Norman period. The crossbow. th-century crossbows like this were the culmination of centuries of development. With limbs made of steel, they were incredibly powerful. But earlier Norman crossbows had limbs made of wood.
There was a limit to how powerful these wooden bows could be.
So the idea that Norman crossbows were a powerful weapon is really a myth. Despite this, they were effective at medium range, and that was enough in battle. Drawing the bow repeatedly took a lot of strength. Thankfully, help was at hand.
A crossbowman spanned his weapon with a device called a belt and claw.
This gave him extra leverage, allowing him to use his back and legs to draw the string.
Crossbowmen were vulnerable on a battlefield, so they carried large shields called pavises, so they could hunker down behind, load, pop up, shoot, and then duck back down again to reload.
Crossbows were accurate, took less training, and used cheaper ammunition than the longbow. Most importantly, you could wait to take your shot, so they were perfect for siege situations. To protect crossbowmen when they were defending castles, they used specially built wooden galleries, called hoardings. But shooting down towards an approaching enemy presented its own problems. How to stop the bolt from falling off the crossbow before it could be shot?
What they did is just place the thumb loosely on the top of the bolt, which is just enough with light pressure to hold it in place.
Around 1200, the Norman wooden crossbow was superseded by a new design, the composite bow. With limbs made from horn and sinew, they could be made more compact than a wooden bow. And they could deliver up to 4 times the punch. They were, however, more expensive. So whether on the battlefield or the castle rampart, simple wooden crossbows remained the main weapon of the day.
Wow. 哇！一款游戏，玩游戏学历史，赞赞赞！哇！它还有这么到1217年呢。我想要看看百年战争好了，来看一下百年战争的影片会介绍什么好了。看看我们的骑士精神，英格兰国王为了征服法兰西而发动战争，一场勇士竞赛将捍卫骑士的价值。Go， 出发！百年战争。
In 1350, what we know as the idyllic French countryside was a living hell. For more than 15 years, the people had suffered at the hands of English invaders. Little did they know that this war would last for another 100 years. But through this crucible of fighting, famine, and plague, there would emerge the modern nation of France. England's King Edward III looked jealously across the English Channel. Wanting France for his own, he had added the fleur-de-lis, the symbol of France, to his own royal standard. This was an all-out declaration of war. And in 1337, he invaded. But France already had a king, Philippe VI.
Philippe VI.
As the English burned their way across the land, Philippe's army and his legendary knights marched to meet them and came face to face with the English longbow. A simple weapon, but the most devastating the knights had ever faced. The heroes of France fell to storms of English arrows. The war engulfed the French countryside. By 1351, the conflict was focused on Brittany. One fight stands out as a spectacular display of chivalry and a symbol of the wider conflict between the two enemy nations. The combat of the 30 is still commemorated here in Brittany. It was a dispute between two local families. Supported by the opposing sides in the war, the French and English commanders decided to settle it through a trial of knightly combat. Each side would choose 30 champions to fight on neutral ground. France prepared to defend itself against England's finest.
开打！这一场刺激呀！英格兰最勇的勇士们，法国的勇士们，要互相对决。战斗中逃跑是不行的，哇，决斗嘛。1350年，1351年，1351年。
Intent on ending the suffering of the French peasantry, Sir Jean de Beaumanoir sent a challenge to the English commander. 30 champions on each side would compete in a tournament for final claim to Brittany. With the battleground of the halfway oak agreed upon, Sir Jean set out to gather support from local knights.
Local knights. 招募勇士。
As a knight himself, Sir Jean followed the strict rules of chivalry and was expected to protect the local peasantry and ensure peace.
Je suis votre serveuse. Je ride en vos volets.
法兰西勇士，go go go.
Incontinent. Mon arway mène avec moi, pour votre service. Mon destrier remagne. Fuer, giride. Mon destrier remagne. Place, petit comme et compresse.
保护农村民，除击溃狼群。加速攻击速度提升。
Most medieval tournaments were friendly in nature, held for sport and glory, but the combat of the 30 was arranged between opponents mired in war. English raids had torn through the countryside of Brittany and brought great hardship to the people.
有下一个点，法兰西勇士继续招募，冲啊！踢啦！哦，有个战士 ，MP 啦
Certes. Apertisez votre courage, compagnon.
听说这款游戏不
Sir
同
Jean spotted an English raiding
种
party
族的军
attacking a nearby farmstead.
选择会有不同的语音哦。 击退他们，破甲，加速加破甲。两个在浑水摸鱼，看到了。Go！ 拯救农民，补血！勇士们上来！保卫家园的时间。
The French knights defeated the English raiders, and Segui de Rochefort joined Sir Jean's party.
有人站出来，领袖出来了，大家就会跟着一起往前冲。大家需要
Sir Jean's search next brought him to Sir Geoffroy Dubois, whose squires were contending with a detachment of English longbowmen. The knights would use the great speed of their war horses to charge the archers and overwhelm them.
Charge the enemy!
The English longbowmen fell, but the French knights knew the enemy would attempt to retake the hilltop fortification and steeled themselves for further attacks.
保卫。
Surveille à votre commandement. Pour votre service. Chef.
哇，那骑兵要
Apertisez votre courage, compagnon.
回血。
Commandement pour chevalier. Access Lesbos, nous allons. Je suis votre serveur. Assaillez vos armes. Nous allons. Access Lesbos.
With Sir Geoffroy by his side, Sir Jean had secured the outpost.
要拿下制高点，以防船弓手的攻击。没错，边玩游戏边学英文。
Avant, compagnon. Je suis votre serveuse.
Go！ 再来招募新的勇士喽！
Looking to secure his honor, a young knight held his ground on a bridge in Sir Jean's path.
啊，要决斗了！赢得决斗！赢了！ 哇，
Je veux vos souvenirs.
Honorably conceding defeat in the duel, Sir Yves Charel joined the cause.
哦，先考验领袖够不够强。这个勇士很有勇气啊，还是通常敢这样的人，有2把刷子，很厉害的，才敢这样子做。MP 啊，加护甲。
Sir Jean entered the staging area for the tournament, where he prepared to choose which knights would join him in battle.
啊，要单挑了，选择勇士与英格兰作战。哦，也只有一
Each
只可以
knight
选
would。be accompanied by his squires,
这个
young nobles in training to become knights themselves.
Page, oyez. Obéis. Certes. Aveillez votre. Apertisez votre courage, compagnon.
进入决斗场啦！
Retrayez
其他人可以
vos
选
appuis.
不行，敌人的，我们这一场可以
Access
选。
vos avant, compagnon. Certes.
第一战，
Compagnon. Reste pour la besoin. Donnez-moi vos appuis.
先
Gensdown
分队一下，
vos
Lancière, gardez vos. Comme il vous
长
spera.
枪兵列阵，
Lieutenant,
Chascune, moult avant. Obéir. Mon arway mène à Wekwe. Compagnon.
战士侧翼
vos blessed.
OK 的哈。
courage, lancière. En ordre.
然后呢，看一下啊，选择勇士哦，那当然是补血。
Bien savets quoque reniez vos armes.
然后看看啊，装甲步兵跟骑兵，啊，打铜墙铁壁流。
Sir Jean had selected his champions. As the sun rose, the two sides entered the arena, ready for the first round of combat.
Chascuns and compagnon. Reste porage.
Lancière, honor.
Reste por un Gensdown postiert. Et comprendre.
哎，等一下，
Lancière, lancière.
Dun, dun.
Dos descampons. See, fate to fair. Ayez
Compagnon. Reste compagnon. Obéir.
Chascune.
Compagnon. Reste pour la besoin. Gensdown postiert.
加盾，赶快加！
With both sides bloodied and bruised, the fighters called for a break, allowing the champions respite to bandage their wounds.
Veci commandement. Place. Veci commandement.
强化科技。两个都强化了。
Aveillez votre comme
为
vos
什么
blessed.
没有补血？他们都选补血，可恶！
Dictus mue. On l'avoué pour bataille.
啊，
Compagnon
二队
vectus nos
暂
en
时只
l'avoué.
剩下这一坨。
Dictus mani Gensdown postiert.
哇，消掉！
Compagnon. Reste porage. Compagnon.
Honor reste de
Puer tirer. Wesso. Envoué. L'heure. Point.
Courage, lancière. En ordre.
Attendez.
Place, Bates, Vector Snos sans la
进
bruit.
来。
Un pied ci, un pied là.
哦，
Jets
回来
down.
回来
Compagnon, lance sur Envoy, Greek Envoy.
Compagnon.
Refreshed and reinvigorated, the French knights returned to the arena for another round of combat.
Soyez prêts.
The combat of the 30 was about to decide which nation would control the Duchy of Brittany.
Avertissez votre courage, compagnon.
Chacune, soyez.
Acceptez vos compagnon.
Compagnon.
啊，忘记了。啊，
Pour votre service.
我要大失血。
Obéir, c'est vertu.
Compagnon. Reste pour la pouvoir.
Salve votre honneur.
Triumphant, Sir Jean de Beaumanoir and his loyal knights claimed victory.
Royal now.
The combat of the 30 had decided control of Brittany in favor of the French. Little did the two sides know, this was just the beginning of a bitter war that would outlive them all.
Victory. 哇！我们先来看看影片好了。战争页面，血腥版的骑士比武盛会。这是片头，跳过。好，骑士略捷，我来看一下。
In the 100 Years' War, the English used a terror tactic, a raid through enemy territory, intended to intimidate and provoke the French into battle. It was called chevauchée.
骑行劫掠。
The principal weapon for chevauchée was fire. And one of the ways it was delivered was with incendiary arrows.
Challenge with incendiary arrows? Keeping them alight.
One type of incendiary arrow was fueled with gunpowder.
Gunpowder.
We've got charcoal, got sulfur, and we've got saltpeter. Saltpeter is the main ingredient. The more oxygen you put into it, the hotter it burns. Of course, when it's on an arrow, when it's being shot, you've got a turbocharged airstream.
The chemicals are bound together with brandy, left to dry, and poured into a linen bag. The extra long arrowhead is inserted into the bag and then tied off to secure it. It is then sealed by dipping it into boiling tree resin. This resin, which itself is highly flammable, provides a waterproof casing. It also shields the burning gunpowder, so the wind doesn't put it out in flight.
Well, that looks deadly. And I really want to shoot it.
One shoot.
The art to shooting an incendiary arrow is timing. Too early, and it will go out. Too late, it will spit at you like a dragon.
Dragon.
That was just evil.
That was evil. Evil.
The word chevauchée means horse raid, and it was mobile light horsemen who spearheaded the attacks. They took gold and silver from the churches, valuables from wealthy citizens, and as much food and drink as they could find from anyone. A chevauchée was scorched earth warfare to create discontent amongst the enemy's subjects, perhaps even to get them to turn against their king. An army on campaign needed a decisive battle, and a chevauchée was intended to taunt the enemy to come out and fight.
哦，帅！哎，再来下一关。
After victory at the combat of the 30, the French faced devastating raids from England's Black Prince. France's King John II was closing in. Jean finally caught the English near the city of Poitiers in September 1356. The French army outnumbered the English by thousands. King Jean himself joined the fight, but what seemed a certain victory for France soon turned into a nightmare. The English longbow devastated the mighty French army. An endless hail of arrows gutted the main French force. Then the English captured King Jean. The fight was over. The Battle of Poitiers was another catastrophic defeat for the French. The English had destroyed most of France's nobility in a single day. Now they turned their attention towards taking the French capital, Paris. The invaders marched unopposed towards Paris. The remains of some of the medieval walls of Paris still stand today. As the English army approached, the terrified locals sought shelter behind these defenses. Could France's capital withstand the full might of the Black Prince's army?
Wow. 帅！哎，这一场是巴黎围城战啊！这一局我们是要扮演英军，巴黎前进。
The English Black Prince had raided the French countryside without mercy, and now his army had come for the capital. With the English on their doorstep, it fell to the French army and the people of Paris to defend the walls of their proud city. Hoping to avoid open battle, the French began fortifying the city, manning the walls and calling every available soldier to his post.
准备面对英军的攻击，带领村民。
As the French hastened their preparations, several detachments of English soldiers were spotted closing in on the city.
Messieurs des mouets, à votre commandement. Bien, bien. Baïs.
Besoin à faire?
Baïs mouet besoin. La sexe mouet exploité. Je vous amène Mériette.
Sparker， 完了，还是找不到分离。好了，先回家，先回来。不要踩，太危险，快跑！
Pour vous servir. Oyez les ordonnances. Que faute donc de lui s'envoyer. Le soigne nous attend. Maintenant. Vous me faites trahir. Si vous exploitiez.
The English showed no mercy, burning their way to Paris via 3 routes, each of which was home to villages and farms that supplied the capital.
Allons,
marchiez derrière moi, Trestus.
Attendez, les commandements.
Annonce, nos devons de salaire. Oyez tous le monde. Marchiez derrière moi, Trestus. À votre commandement. Si, comme volette.
Compagnon.
Homme, puissant Quimi.
Besoin nous attend, madame. En besoin reste pour la besoin. Allons, madame.
Reste la 7 mois exploité. Annonce.
Oyez la 7 mois exploité. Advertance tout le monde. Oyez tout le monde. Oyez si va exploité. Allons, ça tresse tous.
Archers.
Oh, je suis sans voué. Voyez-moi besoin.
On va servir. Un besoin. Oyez, lance devant nos salaires. Oyez, tous le monde. Voyez-moi besoin. Si vous exploitiez. Si, comme volette. Si, veg musser. Suis sans voué. Les ordonnances. Advertant tout le monde. Pour savoir mystère de Weiss.
Die Schwolcher sont presque sequence was die Jensdarm was kehrt. Gut avant.
Arbelestre. Siveille. Oyez tous, si vous exploitiez. Allons ça, laisse tous. Advertant tout le monde. La 7 mois exploité. Lance devant nos salaires. Bien, bien, je mus. Oyez, on va servir. Allons ça, Trestus. Marchiez derrière moi, Trestus. Oyez, tous le monde. Advertez à votre oil, mais on va servir. Oyez, tout le monde. Oyez, les ordonnances.
Il n'est faute que la vie. Compagnon, jet. Au
哇，军队那么少，这么大，军力之差。 上锁，给人进来。
Chevaucheur, chacune,
Chesmets vos habillement.
les chevaucheurs, écoute.
这个生产兵， 国哎，新场兵。
As the French continued to rally their army, the English took the last of the surrounding villages and had almost encircled Paris.
添加士兵。
With the countryside in flames and the English at the city gates, the French armies steeled themselves for battle. Now came the capital's true test. Would the mighty walls of Paris hold against a fearsome English siege?
Compagnon, oyez. Compagnon, comme vos plaisent.
The Parisian guard raised the alarm as the English began their first assault on the city walls.
Aubelestière, allons. Avant, Aubelestière. Aubelestre, Adjustment. Adjustment, Aubelestière. À Barbey.
Chacune en sa place. Oyez.
L'ancien
Réveillez-vous et comprenez.
Jetsmith vos habits, je gagne mon gage. Aubelestre, avant.
这是城门社。 可以上城墙哎！哦，可以上城墙。
Donnez mon away, main. Chevalier, cesse. Gewaltsam. Votre jetzt. Compagnon. Chaskin, Schottempe.
Adjustment vos Aubelestre. Aubelestière, à point de basse. Aubelestière, avant. Aubelestière, Jetsmets vos habillement. Aubelest au col.
来吧，我的维修大队。
Oh yes, tous le monde. En besoin. Je vais rappareiller ce manuel.
因为我的村民呢？
Besoigné à faire. Je vais rappareiller ce manuel.
Que faut-il donc besoigner? Rappareillement en train.
Que faut-il donc
好看到
besoigner?
了，在这边。
Besoigné à faire. Que faut-il donc besoigner? Oh, me faut trahir. Manans, preste à ouvrir. Va jetzt moi besoin.
Preste porteur. Je vais de Sestupas. Archers, advansos. Preste porteur.
Estirez-moi.
维修大队。
Aubelestre. Chestnut boss.
Archers, archers en la voie.
Oyez bien, compagnon. Chestnut boss. Ça, compagnon. Oralban. Comme il vous plaît.
Pou.
Oui.
Attendez, avant.
Advertence.
À votre assets, moins exploité. Appareillement train.
Je commande.
Que parti donc besoigné?
Je suis votre serveuse.
Besoigne nos attaques, madame. Attendez les commandements, madame.
Reste tous en quête.
骑兵退回来，退回来。
The French army fought valiantly, repelling the first English attack.
Je commande avant. Avertissez votre collège. Commande, je suis. Bien savez, victor nos. Chevalier. Envelestier. À poitiers de face. Anderson, chevalier. Avant, compagnon. Contre-yes, face à moi.
Arrête pour la besogne, si vais explosion. L'ordre des bandes solaires.
Sivez exploitière.
Arbelestre. À Chetsmetsmos. Comme il vous plaît. Arbelestier. À poitiers de face. Avant, Arbelestier. Compagnon, nos des Spartans Brieman.
Archers.
Ici les commandements. À Chesmetros. Alors, à Parmec. Voici comme vos voldrez. Platz, Renietz, vos armes. Chenverris, en votre nom. Chesmetz, vos Arbelestres. Arbelestière. Alors, à Chesmetz, vos Arbelestres.
Annonce, reste en ordre.
Chesmetz, vos habillements. Arbelestres. Chesmetz, vos compétents, Renietz, vos armes. Avertissez, vos bien. Smith, vos nom. On la voit. Arbelestres. À Chesmetz, vos. Arbelestier. À poitiers de face. Poitiers de face. Nos déguerpissos. Chesmetz, vos Arbelestres. Compagnon. Jonas von Ordonnance. Pour votre service. Je suis à chasse. Retroyez vos hamois. Platz, Pietzi. Aveillez Botch. Métier comme un élève.
Dites-moi mon Versailles.
À Chesmetz, vos. Je gagne mon gage. Arbelestier. À pointe Sivey.
Manance, je vais raparier ce manuel.
Mon arc est prêt.
À Chesmetz, vos, compagnon. Heil, messieurs des mouettes. L'heure est de besoigner. Commande, je commande, avant.
Oyez, tout le monde.
Sivez exploitière.
是个维修大队。
The French defense of their capital held firm, wearing down the English invaders one by one.
Voyez les ordonnances. À votre commandement.
Attendez. Avec. Voyez, compagnon, nos allons. Sivey. Bien oeil. Versailles. Chesmetz, vos habillements. Arbelestier. Sivey. Ici les commandements. À Chesmetz, vos. Chesmetz, vos.
Advertance, tout le monde.
Anderson, chevalier. À Chesmetz, vos Arbelestres. Je commande. Arbelestres. À Chesmetz, vos.
骑兵冲，骑兵冲，够骑兵！
Chesmetz, vos Arbelestres.
啊，不行不行，长矛兵好多，快退来快退来！
Compagnon, ici les commandements. J'abasse cette Versailles. Chesmetz, vos armes, compagnon. Arbelest, allons.
Voyez les ordres.
Allons, ça, Trestus. Arbelest, un des Spartans, vraiment.
ici laisse bien oeil. Voyez, tous
维修大队。
Soyez prest, compagnon. Attendez, obtenez à Oxavitz. Incontinent.
Archer, on the graphic, Archer.
Attends, compagnon. Ordre. Grazie. Pensi comandament. Bien,
Archers, les commandements Archer.
Advertance demande. Das exploit.
Envelopé. À pointe de passe.
Nous sommes prêts. Je commande.
Die Jetstar postier. Compagnon. Reste pour agir. Un kitsi. Un killa.
Le veston au tir Archer.
Vite, Vostok. On la voie.
J'exploite les réparements.
Bien, savez, Reniez, vos...
Archers, prenez vos armes. Ne demeurez, point là.
Voyez bien, compagnon. Nous allons. Grazie. Access met vos. Bien, oi. Aubelestre. Access met vos. Access met vos aubelestres. Aubelestier, comme il vous plaise. Access met vos, comprendre.
Archers, voyez commandements. Archer, en la voie.
这边还有，这边还有，现在这边放。
There is of vostro service.
Archers!
Access met vos, compagnon. Jets, Aubelestier. Allons. Oui, attendez. Aubelestre col. Attendez. Access met vos. Aubelestre. Access met vos. Avant. Alors, apertisez vostre corps. Jets met vos admirez. Aubelestier. Allons. Nous sommes prêts.
Archer!
Access met vos. Aubelestier. Aubelestier. Bien oeil. Jets met vos. Aubelestier.
Although the walls of Paris had been breached, the French could still hold the city, so long as its mighty landmarks did not fall.
Archers, met vos! Archers!
The enemy grew ever more desperate as their ranks thinned and their hopes of victory faded.
Tous sommes prêts. Avant, compagnon. Certes. Page, un pied-ci, un pied-là. Faites vos donc. En la voie, un pied-ci, un pied-là. Reniez vos armes.
Il est vais rester. Archers, met vos! Archer, allons brillement. Ne demeurez...
Hors votre service.
Archer, on the graphic, Archer.
哇，没有食物了。
Aveillez votre. Page, command.
Archers, prenez vos armes.
Grazie. Page, command. Ici, laisse commandement. Access.
Advertance.
Lors devant nos salaires.
Oil, vestiaire de moi.
Voyez les ordonnances.
Lors devant nos
维修
salaires.
大队。
Access met vos aubelestre. Avant, aubelestier. Soyez prêts. Avertisez votre courage, compagnon.
Archers, met vos! Archer, Archer, le ferai-je donc?
Compagnie s'y veille. Allons, ça parmet. 13 de l'ennemi. Los des Spartans. Oui.
Archers, Archers, Archer, en la voie. Archers, prenez vos armes. Demeurez, Slat to coin.
Voyez bien, yo James Bond siège. Disaignez de vos mouets, compagnons. Sans retrayer votre aboué. Pour votre service. Il n'y faut. Aïe, décernez-moi.
J'exploite les réparements.
Mananson va servir. Besoin de nos attentes. Besoin de 13 sens nul arrest. Appareillement en train.
Archers! Les Archers! Oyez, commande Schottenberg!
Je suis votre serveur.
Mon arc express. Acest vos, Archers! Archers, allons brillement. Acest vos! Archer, on the guerpits, Archer. Archers, voir à Parmain. On the guerpits, Archer.
Attendez les commandements.
Oyez, commandements!
Voyez du reste, compagnons. Retraillez vos aboués. Quand je commande, oh! Lieutenant,
Achetez, comme le volet!
avertissez votre courage, compagnons.
Achetez!
Accessoire, je commande.
Archer! Archer à la voie!
Achetez votre compagnons, aux allons. Bien oeil. Sibé. Comme ici, oui. Accessoire,
Bien savets quoque nos advien. Aveye botch, veci comme...
Oyez bien, compagnons.
Les Genstars envoyés vers notre porte. Genstars. Vectons.
Le... Ici, les annonces. À Parmain. Compensivez.
Compagnons et comprenez.
Soyez, je suis votre serveuse.
Page. Vectons nos sur la voie.
Chevalier!
Chesmets vos habillement. Obéissez. Allons ça, Trestout. Vecuer Merias.
Attendez le...
Brace.
Accesta, compagnon. Hors votre service.
Compagnie Schottenberg à Oxabit. Lieutenant Moyer.
Ici, bien oeil. Je suis votre serveuse.
Un besoin.
Avertissez vos accessoires pour des guerpis. À la somme, chevalier, avertissez votre forêt.
Genstars postière, Schottenberg.
Faites vos habillements en belestière.
Un besoin.
En belestière. À pointier de batte. Arbalète. Reste-nous s'appuie.
Les Genstars postière.
Retrayez votre aboué. En belestière. À pointier de compagnon, aux allons. Citraille sur cette berge. Allons, à Marseille. Ça, compagnon. Hors à droite. Dans le despotisme. Avant. Compagnon. Je gagne mon gain. Alors, ça. Voyez, c'est comme vous voudrez. Anderson, avant. Compagnon.
守住，快守住了，各位撑住啊！
Reparti donc besoin.
Anderson, accessoires aux avoués. Avant. Accessoires vos.
快补充弓箭手，2、4、6、7、8，内啊 ，safe。
compagnon.
Defeated and demoralized by the strength of the French defense, the Black Prince's army abandoned their siege of the capital. Paris celebrated victory, but this was not the last test the French would face in their struggle to win the war.
哦，又有新的了，哇哦！巴黎围城战应该是也是片头啊。我们来看一看它的第二部板甲。
The battlefields of the 100 Years' War were full of danger. To defend against these weapons, a new type of armor was developed. Plate armor.
Plate armor clad the knight in an articulating exoskeleton of hardened steel. A hard outer shell that still flexes and moves with the body.
It provided impressive protection and was an extraordinary technological achievement.
Now, one of the ways that armor gets its strength is through shape. Both these pieces are made out of the exact same thickness as steel, but I can show you there's one stronger than the other. Here's the one with no shape. You see it buckles immediately. If I swap it for one that's been forged to have strength and shape,
wow.
You can see it's much stronger. It's going nowhere.
Wow.
It wasn't just the shape that gave it strength. It was also how the metal was treated by the armorer.
Now, the benefits of using heat is it obviously makes the piece more plastic, more ductile, lets me shape it. But the fuel also adds layers of carbon into the outer surface. This helps me increase the hardness and strength of the material.
The art of the armorer was being able to judge the temperature of the metal by eye, managing the heat to create resilience in the metal. The combination of heat-treated metal and rigid shapes meant that armor didn't need to be so thick and heavy, making it much easier to fight in. But good quality plate armor did have its downside. It was very expensive.
Yeah, not everyone can afford full steel plate armor. For the common man, there is the brigandine. Now, these are made up of overlapping steel plates that are then riveted through a textile outer. This gives you a much bigger range of movement, but is limited and is not as strong as a full steel breastplate. That said, it is much cheaper and much easier to maintain.
Okay.
At its best, the armored knight was invincible. But armor didn't just provide defense. It was also a weapon and an expression of a knight's power and prestige.
Power.
Armor transformed its wearer into a work of art.
帅呀！帅帅帅帅！哇，酷酷酷！来，我来看看，再一局好了。Paris, France.
The walls of Paris held out against the English onslaught. England's King Edward and the Black Prince abandoned the siege. They marched towards Chartres to try their luck at conquering a less formidable target. But before they could attack, a violent storm hit the army. Killing 1,000 English soldiers in a tempest of hail and freezing winds. To Edward, this Black Monday disaster seemed like divine retribution. A sign that it was time to stop waging war and make peace with France's King Jean. But even as peace between kings was reached, the people of France were still living in bloodshed and turmoil. Between 1358 and 1370, France was in chaos. Peasant uprisings, rampaging bands of mercenaries, and civil war ravaged the country. Peasants rose in rebellion, killing their lords and wreaking havoc. Mercenary bands also roamed the land. Known as routiers, they had once been hired by the English to fight against the French, but were cut loose when peace was reached. They systematically ravaged and pillaged towns across France. And with King Jean prisoner in England, his son Charles the Dauphin faced homegrown attacks on his rule by powerful French lords, beset from all sides. The Dauphin's forces had to regain control over their own country.
啊，在载入的时间，我先上个厕所，马上回来。好，我回来了。来，我们来动荡的法兰西开始这一场。
Having only recently been crowned King of France, Charles V dispatched his army to the French-held village of Évreux to forge order from chaos. From here, the army would move to extinguish three major threats. Bands of roving mercenaries harrying the countryside, a peasant uprising, and attacks from a rival for the French crown, Charles of Navarre. The French army would start by reclaiming the rebel-held villages of Cocherel, Jouy, and Croissy.
Toutes auditées. D'abord enseignements.
Pour Solres, in les cavales. Si voleis. Cavale parade. Cavallo
你
ici.
来守一个。
Parats pour la bourra. Restituo.
Parade pour venir.
Si sommes. Mandement. Mauvais colonnes. Mandesqued.
Si. Cursor. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
酷手，哦耶，哦耶！
Colonnes sunt. Si, comprendo.
发个木吧。
Returno comme materia.
Mandesqued.
Labour sperans.
Si sommes. Laburo. Lirefatio. Labur si comprendo.
Qued me.
这个，你看啊，从叛军手里夺回鲁伊克鲁瓦西。克鲁瓦西应该是旁边这两个区吧。那没有什么。
As the French army struggled to regain control of the countryside, they were struck by a band of English routiers. These mercenaries had been cut loose by the English army and were plundering the countryside in order to make a living.
倒车。
Cursor obéissant.
Parats pour la bourra.
射箭跟马厩，现在只有步
The
兵
French forces eliminated the
跟
routier
舰
attack,
场。
but more were still raiding the countryside in search of provisions and riches. The routier demanded payment from the French, or they would continue their horrifying raids.
Come sono la cose?
Ordine Chevalier.
Et celi mandement. Si, bene. Temps de retournar.
黄金有限，
Bon vamos,
木
Valetus.
头看起来是蛮多的。
Vado la bourra. Qued labour? Fido, si. Cos'è scritto?
先去干。
Cos'è sarà massonat, qued me? Ah, felicet beat. Vado la bourra. Penetre.
哇，盖错了。哎，算了，好像也不要。弓箭手可以大量生产木头。
Variez être préparé. Si, sitôt.
Arate archers, audience.
Equites at
Prépare.
Langue, bene. Sigene.
parate equites.
Labour sperans. Quito. Qued labour. Come sono la cose?
Si.
Labour sperans. Mes flèches.
搞不到了，
Parade pour venir. Ici va toast.
木头不够啦。
Vado la bourra.
Equites quite. Move equites.
Langue, vertete.
Buon lavoro.
Comprendo.
Qued me. Si sommes. Movenskito.
木材不够，我们可以盖个房舍好了。
Cos'è sarà massonare? Perfect. Io massono...
Equites sunt paratos. Passalsi davanti.
L'encaisse. Comprendo. Vaneo. Vallée. Parade. Allez. Pariez, être prêt. Tourma. Ah, Beignet.
Labour Spérance. Vado lavorare. Cos'è sarà massonata? Io massono la cose. Vado lavorare.
Preparate. Presentez l'encaisse. Vade, l'encaisse. L'encaisse baratas. Presentez l'encaisse. Bon, l'encaisse soproioxa. Vale. Tourma. L'encaisse baratas. Vale.
Momentesi, archer.
Pariez, être préparé, l'encaisse.
Parate, archer. Vade, archer. On the squad. Sagita in arco. Io massono la cose.
L'encaisse baratas.
Parate. Preparate. En boula.
Pariez, être prêt. L'encaisse.
Près de la bourre. Cos'è sarà massonata?
Vale.
Arco, Sagita in arco. Archer, parate.
Si. Qu'une grande course. Un boulot. Présentez l'encaisse. Pariez, être préparé, l'encaisse.
Parate pour venir. Parate. In avant, archer. Momente. Parate, archer. Vade, archer. Parate. Archer. In avant. In avant, archer. Nintendo. Ambula. Parate, archer. Ambula. Preparate, archer. Deusei. In avant, archer. Deusei. Archer. In avant. Siso. Ito. Parate, archer. Archer, parate. Momente, bene, bene. Parate. On the squad. Momente, si, archer. Preparate, archer. Moment, vale, archer.
Cavaliere.
Ordine tel secund mon.
L'encaisse so. Présentez l'encaisse. Sigeme.
Parate. Sagita in arco.
Audite,
Sagita in arco. Qued me. Li refaccio.
Wait, me?
Arco, parate. Parate. Parate pour la bourrard. Restito.
Tourma.
Demandes. Movo.
Pariez, être préparé.
Momentesi, archer. Parate, obedio.
L'encaisse baratas. L'encaisse soproiox. Vade, l'encaisse.
Sagita in arco. Mandesco.
Parade pour venir. Cos'è sarà massonata?
Presente. Preparate, archers. Parat for Vigo. Si, demande.
Cavale comme Mendes.
Parade pour Laboura. Labour spera. Quito. Maneo. Movo. Io ma sono la cosa.
Lances soproioxa.
Benefect.
Parate, archers. Parat. Fade, archers.
Attention. Pace, bon.
Presente Lances. Veniez. Cursor perfecté.
Momentesi, archers.
Parier et...
Dans le bien.
Quai demandait Cavallo ici. Comprenne. Veillance l'inimi. Cum grande course. Lanques paratas. Lanques sopre. Lanquier meco.
Prépare Obedio. In avant, archers. Prépare. Parate, archers. Audience. Parats pour Laboura. Secours matériel Iran. Laboura.
Présente.
Parats.
Si, sitôt. Perfecté.
Parats. Préparate, archers. Archers. In avant.
Parier, préparez Lanques.
Ouais, de Labour. Labour.
Non, si,
sommes. Cos'è sera massonata?
Lanques, vade.
Momente, archer, in avant. Momente, sì, archer.
Parier, comprendo.
Bene, bene.
Parier, veniez. Caval, respect. Present.
Parate, archers.
Sigeme.
Fade, archer.
Lanquier, meco.
Parat, intendo.
Lanques soproioxa. Maneo.
Preparate, archer, si.
Lanques so bene.
Parate.
Presente Lanques.
Obedio. Preparate, vade, archer. In avant, archer. In avant, archer. Audience. Vade, archer. Ambula. Deuse, archer. In avant. Audience.
Present Lanquier.
Momente, si, archer.
Lanques, venez.
Parate, archer.
Parier, préparez Lanques.
Preparate, archer. Ambula.
In taking the village of Jouy, the French army was closer to stemming the peasant rebellion and regaining control.
Momente, si, in avant, archer.
Venez. Lanquier, meco.
Intendo.
Lanques paratas.
盗贼清光。
Cursor obéissance. Lanques paratas.
Preparate, archers. Près de Labour. Vado Laboura. Io massimo le cose.
The central monastery town of Cocherel would continue to send out rebel attack parties to weaken the French army.
Presente
Parate, bene, bene.
Non geste de trade.
Parat, momente, si. Ambula.
Lanques parier et préparez Lanques. Sigeme.
Parat, archer. In avant. Langue, preparat. In avant. Parat, si, bene. Si sommes. Vado Laboura.
Present.
Parat.
Oh! Valet.
Preparate, vade, archer. Parate, archer. Obedio.
要欺负敌人了。 有人海战术。
Preparate parat, sieste. Lanques, soldade, parat, audien. Lanques parata. Varier et presente lanques veni. Moment vade arquier. Lang sigeme. Parat in avant. Present vade lanquiers. Lanquier meco. Preparat arquier. Lang venier. Lanquier meco. Parat. Lanques soproioxa. Parat. Parier comme prêt. Moment ambola. Prese sigue. Parat in avant. Parier et vade lanquiers. Preparat vade arquier. Arquier. In avant. Lanques soproioxa. Moment vade arquier. Parat et Parier. Parier lanquier. In avant. Arquier. In avant, arquier. Lanques, bene. Si. Preparat. Obedio. Lanques. Parat. Preparat. Ambola. Atel troques. Parier et préparier. Lanques. Arquier. In avant. Arquier, parat.
The French discovered the Routier hidden camp and could put an end to the English raids if they could destroy the camp.
Qu'est demandé? Un boulot. Si. Oh yeah, oh.
Ordine tenens. Comme
Lanques parate, arquer. Presentelecta. Sigeme. Preparate, arquer.
Fouet de labour. Camino. Anas la garde.
Fouet d'abour? Camino.
Momente sia.
Audi Twitamus.
Parate, arquer.
Twitamus.
Ordini. Sagitaina. Parate, arquer. Bene, bene. Vade, arquer. Nintendo. Arquer. In avant. In avant, arquer. Vade, arquer. Momente si, arquer.
Attention. Novos ordines.
Sagitaina.
Quiete cavals. Ordine tenens.
Parat.
Tourma.
La bourse pérane.
Preparate, arquer. In avant, arquer. Bene, bene. Ambola. Audience. Si, arquer. In avant. Ambola. Parate, arquer.
Attention. Novos ordines.
Momente si, arquer. Oye.
Colonnelito. Vado quel. Me. Sito. Vado lavorare. Ci sono messi. Io ma sono la cosa.
Equites attendentisis. Gara formata. Si, comprendo.
Parat. Archer. In avant. Nintendo.
Calme bien.
Préparate, Archer. Raté, Archer. Vénétier.
Audite milites.
Moment ici, Archer.
Attention. Novos ordines.
Que demandes? Cavallo ici.
Audite milites.
Raté, Archer. In avant, Archer.
Parat, bordé.
Si, comprendo. Parat, in ayuda.
Ordine tenet.
Moment ici, Archer. Ovidio. Nintendo.
The village of Posse, rich in gold deposits, was a crucial town for the French to reclaim.
Calme bien.
Courseur, une grande course.
Wait, me guido aussi. Cos'è sera massonata?
Ordine tenet. Est facile, cavalier.
With the routier camp destroyed, mercenary attacks were no longer a threat.
Ambulance. Vénies, servientes. Allons-y. Presente l'enquête. L'enquête parat. L'enquête paratas. Moment. Parat. Varier et parat. Ambulance. L'enquête presente. Moment ici.
Attention. Novos ordines.
Parat. Nostraien.
A calque, cavalario. Audite milites.
Raté, Artiers. Demande.
Si sommes. Parat pour la bourra. Bravo. Io ma sono la cose. Cos'è sarà massonata?
The French army defeated the rebels at Croissy and took control of the gold-rich village. The central monastery town of Cocherel was still under the control of rebel peasants. The French army would have to take it before they could launch an assault on Charles of Navarre.
Cavalarios parat. Est facile, cavalier. Dolme bien. Cuitamus. Ambula. Audite milites. Equites attendent in l'ennemi. C'est bon.
L'enquête parata.
Si, comprendo. Est facile, cavalier.
Moment ici. Bene, bene.
Audite.
Presente l'enquête. Si, sitôt. Varier et préparé.
Attention.
L'enquête m'écoute. L'enquête sauvat. Bene, bene. Vade, Archer. L'enquête parata. Moment ici, Archer. Presente l'enquête. L'enquête. Préparate, Archer. Archer, bene.
Colme equites. In avant. Ok.
L'enquête fait.
Ah, si, comprendo.
Varier et vade, Archer. Vale.
Ordine.
Parate, non comprendo. Audience.
Action come.
Extermini!
En queste de battaglia.
Non vade, l'enquête. Fate, Archer. archers. Moment in avant, archers. Andesquet, la bourse Perance. Barak,
下
Porvenir.
一个时代，没得建造，可以只能用这个时期跟他打。人海战术啦，跟他们拼啊！人海战术。
Mondesquid.
Arrête, archers.
Equites attendem interview! El leader, Equites! Si, si! Marchez, Equites! Quit à vous! Complementos! Es facile! Cavalier!
Cavalier!
Second commandement! Simonier!
The French army took control of the rebel villages, and the peasant uprising was subdued. But to keep control over the region, they would need to defend its center of influence, the monastery at Cocherel. Northeast of Cocherel, Charles of Navarre's army had established a fortified camp. The King of Navarre sought to make himself ruler of France as well. He intended to press his claim by destroying the newly arrived royal forces.
哦，要往下打了。先增加燃烧工兵范围。 远程伤害，有工程器械吗？好像也没有。
Que faut-il donc besoigner?
哦，可以盖了，应该会有吧？兵工厂，看起来是好像是没有盖，自己盖一个。
Lors Batige s'essuie.
Nos oyons. Mactons nos en l'avouer, fratresse.
补血大队。哦。可以升级。
Archers, les commandements viennent. Comme il faut Archer ferai-je donc. Comme Archer, Archer, à la paix.
Votre jetzt muss à vous.
Nos oyons. Dictis vos commandements. Si well. Nos oyons, si le ferez. Jouez vos
Lancière, au ordre. Oh, jetzt les ordonnances. Pour vous servir. Fouiller est pas tout. Compagnon Petros, Archier,
Access avant.
Obéit, Sirigets,
Voyez voir.
Dictate continent. Reste dicte vos votre plaisir. Dictes vos convent en l'avouer.
Vaiez-moi, laissez-moi exploiter. Courage, Archers. Les commandements viennent.
Oyez, les...
Advertance tout le monde, si. Comme vous l'êtes. Oil. Il trêche sans...
Oyez, allons, ça tresse tous. Lance batiges est...
Lancière, acesmes vos, Archer.
Non soyons.
Compagnon, compagnon.
Dictes.
Oyez bien.
Si
Oyez silei. Attendez, avertissez votre courage, compagnon.
Ici, oui. Avant.
Soyez prêts, compagnon.
Avayez vos
Sur acesmes vos. Engin de siège. Engin de siège.
都我要两台联力车啊，出发！
Vectons nos.
Oyez comme... À pareil.
Non soyons. Convent en l'avouer.
全军出动！
Place.
Acesmes vos.
Page.
Reste tout est la... Compagnon. Allons, ça permet.
Acces, je suis votre serveur.
Bien et complicté.
Engin, oil.
Page.
Ici.
Attendez les commandements.
Rognets.
Les Spartans, vraiment.
Attendez, avertissez votre courage.
Dictes.
Engin. Ouvertis seul engins.
Avec vos donc. En avouer. Un pied ci, un pied là. Let's vos donc.
Voyez, c'est là.
Oyez, compagnon. Reste tout est engin, allez. Engin de siège. Engin.
Un pied ci.
Engin.
Compagnon.
Rognets vos armes. Rognets vos armes.
Acces certes.
Allons, après, engin de siège, si partons nos.
Bien. Un
Compagnon. Engin de siège, dicté.
convent en l'avouer. Reste suisse de vos cerveaux. Page. Page comme un obtempère à obsavitz. Place. Page comme vos places.
Nos Spartans. Oyez.
Avayez rognets vos armes.
Compagnon.
Bien si faites vos commandes.
Soyez prêts.
Reste tout.
Page. Vectons.
Oyez. Reste.
Vectons. Place. Page comme...
Attendez,
Engin de siège, attendez vos ordonnances.
acces vos compagnon.
Avayez vos. Page.
Ici, les...
Un pied ci.
Ça comme... Engin second, votre commandement.
Dictez si le ferait un pause. Bien. Faites vos donc. En avouer.
Assessment again, mon gage.
Oui, votre
Reste tout et...
Non, ça est si souhait. Avec comme vos places.
Engin de siège, dicté.
Là, j'obtempère à obsavitz.
Oyez, nos Spartans, vraiment.
Hey,
Engin,
jouez votre plaisir. Place et compresse.
Pushing up the hillside, the French discovered Charles of Navarre's camp. His front line had the high ground and was made up entirely of archers. The French would have to think carefully about how to approach the stronghold.
Second, votre commandement.
啊，有那么多啊，不行不行。 哎，撑住了。
Archer,
哦，好像可以赢哦。耶！也打不赢呢。人海战术很猛的。
The French army had repelled Charles of Navarre, stemmed the revolt, and held back the raids of the routiers. In the struggle for control over France's lands, the king still clung to power.
Wow. 哦，又有一个了啊！混乱思绪啊，对，这是一开始的，这也是片头，这一关的片头。那我们来看今天的体验游戏的最后一个影片啦。
A war horse was no ordinary horse. In battle, it was a knight's comrade in arms. By nature, horses are prey animals, but the war horse had to become a predator. They had to be aggressive and fearless, to charge enemy lines and to trample anyone in their way. To achieve this, they were specially bred and highly trained to fight, to lash out with their hooves on command. This meant war horses were expensive, and so conveyed high status.
War horses were incredibly strong and powerful, but they were also vulnerable. This is a really big target, and it's much easier to shoot a horse than it is to hit its rider. So just as men wore armor, horses wore armor too.
A knight didn't ride his war horse on the road to battle. It was far too valuable. Instead, they were led by the knight's groom. A knight would take multiple war horses on campaign, as he would need to change to a fresh horse several times during battle. Once geared up, the knight, his horse, and his weapons became a highly effective system.
The heavy cavalry lance had a small ring called a graper, and this locks into my arm, forming a hard linkage, so that the lance can't shoot backwards on impact.
The war saddle was also crucial. With its high back, it locked the rider to the horse.
This means with the graper and the saddle, horse, man, and weapon are all locked together to create one giant horse-powered projectile.
The main purpose of heavy cavalry was to charge straight into the enemy and smash through their lines. The impact charge crashed into an enemy with terrifying force. It required horses with exceptional courage and power.
Courage and power. 哦，帅帅帅帅帅！哎，战役模式。啊，我才玩一小部分而已哦，还有4个帝国，好多战役，然后还有小规模战斗可以玩，还有战争艺术。哦，这个战争艺术看起来有点像教学啦，哎，不对，比教学再进阶一点的内容。因为一开始开游戏的时候，它好像就会进入教学模式。对，有一款游戏可以玩，又可以学历史，还可以看精美的电影或影片，或还有动画。这样子是不是很值得啊？这款感觉起来非常的值得的，就好游戏支持吧，应该也是要支持一下的。 好啦，那今天的体验游戏就到这边啦，感谢大家的支持。那这款游戏的话，应该在蛮多平台上面都有发售，价钱应该1到2000左右吧，对吧？或者是用类似像 Xbox Game Pass 那种订阅的方式都可以玩到。那就选择适合自己的方式，可以游玩这款游戏。就算很少玩游戏，把它拿来学一下科普历史，或者是一些科技等等的，我觉得也算蛮不错的。毕竟他们团队做这款，感觉起来非常的用心，有很多的历史的故事，还有一些当时时代的一些各项科技的简介解说，对啊，感觉光这些内容，我觉得就值回票价，对吧？假如觉得这个对游戏的价格对自己来讲比较多的话，也可以等到特价，那再入手，再来享受这一款，享受以及支持这款《世纪帝国4》。好，那最后就谢谢大家的支持以及观看，谢谢大家。那我们下周体验游戏再见啦，谢谢大家。